Immanuel Kant believed that nothing was good in and of itself except a good will. Kant defined will as the uniquely human capacity to act according to principles. He believed that actions have true moral worth only when they spring from a recognition of a duty and a choice to discharge that duty, in other words, acting on your principles. Kant placed duties in two categories. First, the perfect duty. That's a duty we must always observe. Refers to negative obligations or a proscription, things we must always refrain from doing, such as don't kill, don't lie. The second category he called an imperfect duty. That's one we must observe only on some occasions, and it refers to positive obligations or prescription, for instance, give to charity. Kant developed what he called the categorical imperative, a guideline that we could use to develop moral rules. The categorical imperative stated that we should act in such a way that we could wish the maxim of our action to become a universal law. Maxim means, in this sense, the principle on which the action was based, the type of principle that people formulate in determining their conduct. Kant meant three things by this imperative. First of all, the rule that results from using this guideline must be consistently universal and categorical. In other words, it must apply to all people without exception. Secondly, always act so as to treat yourself and others as ends in themselves and never completely as means to an end. Kant believed that every rational creature has inherent worth. He also believed they had to deserve respect. And finally, for a rule of conduct to be a moral rule, it must apply equally to those who legislate it. If Kant's imperative were to be applied to an entire society, what would that society look like? Well, first of all, equals would come together to suggest the rules that they believe everyone in their society should follow, without exception. These suggestions, in turn, are made into laws that apply unconditionally to everyone, including those who legislate the rules. Today, we would call this a democracy. What are the strengths of Kant's theory? Well, first of all, the categorical imperative takes the guesswork out of moral decision-making. You only make into rules those actions that you believe everyone should take at all times. Secondly, Kant's ethics introduce a needed humanistic dimension into decision-making. You always treat people as respected equals unless you have reason to believe otherwise. What are some of the weaknesses in Kant's theory? Well, first of all, it provides no clear way to resolve conflicts of duty. For instance, is there any circumstance under which not lying might be overridden by not killing? And secondly, there doesn't seem to be any compelling reason that the prohibition against certain actions should hold without exception. Is there any circumstance, for instance, under which lying would be considered the right thing to do? When using the categorical imperative, try the following exercise. Ask yourself whether you're willing to make your decisions a rule or a policy that you and others in your situation can follow in similar situations in the future. Have you or will you be using any person as a means to an end without consideration for his or her basic integrity? And finally, is the intent of this action free from vested interest or ulterior motive? According to Stephen Carter, integrity requires 3 steps. First of all, discerning what is right and what is wrong. Integrity requires a degree of moral reflectiveness. Secondly, acting on what you've discerned, even at personal cost. A person with integrity is steadfast, which includes the sense of keeping commitments. And finally, saying openly that you're acting on your understanding of right from wrong. In other words, a person of integrity is unashamed of doing the right thing. Philosopher William David Ross believed that all human beings could intuit certain obligations based on their common humanity and on their need to live within social relationships. The first of these are duties of fidelity, and they're based on your prior acts. For example, if you promise either explicitly or implicitly to do something or to abstain from doing something, then you're obliged to either do it or to abstain from doing it. Also included under fidelity is the duty of reparation. So if you perform a wrong action with respect to another person, then you're obligated to undo that wrong. The second are duties of gratitude, and they're based on the acts of other people toward you. For example, if any person performs some service or a favor for you, then you have some obligation to that person who performed the favor. Gratitude applies to relationships between friends, relatives, or employer-employee relationships, among others. Third, duties of justice. These are based on the need to distribute goods, however you define goods, in accordance with the merits of the people concerned. For example, if any person deserves something based on merit, and you can give them what they deserve, or prevent them from getting it if they don't deserve it, then you're obliged to do so. 4. Duties of beneficence. These are based on the fact that there are always other people in the world whose lot in life we can improve. For example, if you can make some person better with respect to their lot in life, you're obliged to do that. 5. Duties of self-improvement. These are based on the fact that we should not neglect to improve our own condition in life. In other words, if you can make yourself better with respect to your own condition, then you should do so. And finally, duties of non-injury are duties of not injuring other people. So if you're in a position to avoid or prevent hurting someone, then you are obliged to avoid or prevent that injury. When using Ross's duties, try the following exercise. Ask yourself who the claimants are in this issue and in what way are you obligated to each of them. List everyone affected by your decision. Define your claimants based on Ross's lists of obligations.